Hello students, welcome back to our most important module which we will be speaking today about environment and society. We will be speaking about sustainable development, we will be speaking about Anthropocene, we will be speaking about climatic change. I, Dr. Ghazala Bhoje from GM Women's College. We will be speaking about sustainable development, climatic change, and Anthropocene debate. Now, let us first begin by defining development. The term development has multiple meaning, interpretations, and theories. According to Reyes, defined 2001, he has said it is a social condition where the nation attempts to satisfy the needs of its population by rational and sustainable use of natural resources and systems. Simultaneously, the other definition which we could go about, that is Thodardho and Smith 2006. According to them, development is a multi-dimensional concept that stress on changes in social structure, attitude, institution, economic growth to reduce inequality and eradicate absolute poverty. To move further, Coetzee, 2001, he said, the goal of development is well-being that is to be attained through security, livelihood, and sustainability. In 1993, Berkeley, development as a process through which an individual develops self-respect, gains self-confidence, and becomes self-reliant, acquiescent, tolerant by becoming aware of his or her potentials and limitations. Now, Rawls, according to him, development is as a distributive justice. It means providing basic needs to all by the government and access to an expansion of goods and services to all classes and equal sharing of burden of development among all. These all definitions to some extent is also reflected in sustainable development goal. Now, it occurs when an individual works with others, he updates oneself, actively participates in socio-economic and political development of the community. So, development is not only to realize human potential and empower them, but also to expand human potential and institutional capacity to enhance proper utilization of resources towards most important sustainable living. Now, what are the objectives of development? The main objective to increase accessibility and distribution of goods and services essential for sustenance, to improve the standard of living of people including health, education, material well-being and self-esteem, to increase people's freedom to choose through expanding their choices and freeing them from dependence on others, poverty, and misery. Now, what is the relevance of sustainable development for development to take place in a country? The development thought after World War II began to change as number of colonies started gaining independence. According to Arndt, 1987, there began agreement in the West that international efforts is required to aid development of the less developed country. Consequently, 1950 onwards, economic development started getting associated with economic growth and it became a significant goal of Western economic policy, particularly for poor countries. From late 1960s onwards, we see a rise of modern environmental movement with renowned works such as Silent Spring, A Blueprint for Survival, and others, which led, or which the consequence of it was that the positive side, that it gave spread of awareness about environmental issues. Now, according to Sears' work, The Meaning of Development, 1969, in his work, he stressed that economic growth fails to achieve social development. He argued that development indicators such as unemployment, poverty, inequality actually gives the true picture of development of any country. The first global summit to discuss human impact on environment was organized by UN in Stockholm. It was an attempt to conciliate economic development with environmental integrity. Our Common Future, 1987, published by World Commission on Environment and Development, dealt with sustainable development, and later on in Earth Summit Rio de Janeiro, 1992, around 170 countries were the signatories of very significant documents on sustainable development, agreeing to preserve the environment. The summit resulted in establishment of the UN Commission to Sustainable Development. Besides Convention of Biodiversity, there were principles on management of forest, Framework Convention on Climate Change, and Agenda 21. Agenda 21. It was a bold step towards new strategies to invest in future to attain sustainable development, for which it did suggested new approach to education, new techniques of preserving natural resources, new process and system for participating in sustainable economy, an economy in which there are profits but not at the cost of the environment or at the harm of the environment. The third assessment report of the Brundtland Commission report, 1987, it defined sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. The two important features of sustainable development includes needs of the poor, which should be addressed, constraint inflicted by the state of technology and social organization on environment's potential to meet present and future need. These are very important features of sustainable development, which does highlight that we need to think about the future and not to exploit all the resources available in the present. The World Commission on Environment and Development believed sustainable development to be a dynamic concept, and the prerequisite of sustainable development are as follows: the political system for efficacious participation of citizens in decision making, the economic system that produce surpluses and technology for establishing a self-reliant and sustained society, a social system that reduces tension and brings out solution for unbalanced development, the production system that brings about harmony between ecology and development, and yes, the technological system that is on never-ending pursuit of finding new solutions for sustainable development. The international system that leads to sustainable businesses and finances, and the administrative system that is adaptive and possesses self-correcting mechanism. These are the few prerequisites for sustainable development, which does have the involvement of the political system, the economic system, the social system, the production system, the technological system, the international system, and the administrative system. All needs to work together in order to achieve the goal of sustainable development, which is a dynamic concept according to the World Commission on Environment and Development. The Brundtland Commission played a significant role in bringing sustainable development into international policy discourse. It stressed that environmental problem was due to extreme poverty of the southern countries and the unsustainable way of consumption and production of the northern countries. However, there is no universally accepted definition of sustainable development. But when we refer and when we read all the definition, we cover one or more elements such as classify what to develop, recognize what to sustain, know the linkage between what is to be sustained and developed, and these linkages from future perspective. Now, sustainable development aims at long-term stability of the economy and environment that needs to be achieved by merging economic, environmental, and social issues in all the facets of decision-making process. Now we go to the main thing about climate change. Resnick 2016 states that climate change is not a new phenomenon. It has been occurring from past 4 billion years and will continue to happen. Historically, natural factors, namely volcanic eruption, any continental drift, process of evolution, change in solar radiation, and others were responsible for climate change. But in the last couple of centuries, human activities like industrialization, deforestation, agriculture, developmental projects in forms of dams, etc., and transportation have started affecting the climate, thereby accelerating the process of climate change. Now, the outcome of United Nations Convention on Climate Change, Glasgow, promising commitment to provide funds to aid developing countries to deal with climate change, adopting global methane pledge, resolving of the pending issues and strengthening the impact of Paris Rule Book, put the effort to reach 1.5 degrees Celsius targeting still pending. Announcement of setting long-term zero goals by many countries. India pledged net zero emission by 2070. Now, change climate and Millennium Development Goal. The first goal, eradicate extreme hunger and poverty. Now, what does this say? Due to climate change, there is increase in weather associated disaster that threatens the livelihood of people. It leads to regional food insecurity and thereby increasing the vulnerability of marginalized. It will also aggravate the water scarcity. This has to be eradicated. Goal 2, achieve universal primary education. Climate change will result in loss of livelihood, so more children will be pushed to work as child labor. Displaced and displacement and migration of people will increase that will increase dropout rates, and low enrollment of children. Promote gender equality. Goal 3. Women constitute two-thirds of world's poor and therefore are worst affected by climate change. They are more dependent on local resources for their livelihood due to their social, economic, and political disadvantage position. They have restricted coping capacity. Therefore, it is essential to respond to climate change by adopting environment gender sensitive strategies. 4. Reduce child mortality. Goal 5. Better maternal health. And Goal 6. Combat HIV or AIDS, malaria, and other diseases. What are we trying to reflect here? Undernutrition is one of the major causes of death among children below 5 years of age. Therefore, efforts to improve food security and nutrition will be a challenge due to climate change. Climate change influences human lives in multiple ways. It not only threatens food supply, shelter, water, but also health. According to WHO, period between 2030 to 2050 will experience additional deaths of around 250,000 people, that is 250,000 people, due to climate change related problems such as malaria, diarrhea, and heat waves. Pregnant women and children would be more vulnerable to climate change induced diseases such as malaria, dengue, diarrhea, etc. Countries with poor health infrastructure will suffer the most. Therefore, there is a need for climate resilient health infrastructure and system. So these three goals play a lot of important role where the minority, the children, the women are concerned. Goal 7, ensure environment sustainability. Change, climate change will bring out fundamental change in economic system and result in increased soil erosion, loss of biodiversity, desertification, drought, cyclones, etc. There will be increase in incidences like wildfire, insect outbreak, biodiversity of wetlands, extreme weather conditions such as heat waves and rising sea levels. It will pose a serious challenge to environment sustainability. Dev- Develop a global partnership for development, goal number 8. To tackle climate induced changes, concrete global efforts are needed. Besides investment in mitigation and adaptation, international cooperation and coordination among the countries of the world will be required to achieve environment sustainability. So the Millennium Development Goal plays a lot of importance, and now we speak about the Sustainable Development Goal too. So these are the 8 goals which reflect on balancing the climatic change and maintaining the sustainable the preservation of the environment. Climate change and sustainable developing goals. SDG 13, which speaks about climate action. The SDGs, also called as global goals, 2015, aimed at ending poverty, protecting planet, and ensuring that by 2030 people enjoy prosperity and peace globally. The 17 SDGs are integrated in such a way that action in one will affect the others. The SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, stress on balanced development that brings social, economic, and environmental sustainability. Target of Sustainable Development Goal 13 to reinforce resilience and adaptivity capacity against climatic change or climate change, to integrate climate change measures in policies, strategies, and planning, which will be locally, nationally, and globally, to improve environmental education, raise awareness and capacity at human and international institutional level regarding adaptation, mitigation, and warning, to address the need of developing countries by mobilizing funds to take action regarding mitigation, implementation, and green climate fronts, etc., to devise and promote strategies for building capacity for effective planning and management of climate change in developing and small island countries, particularly targeting women, marginalized, and the youth. We move to the concept Anthropocene. The term Anthropocene was used by Cruston and Stromer in their paper Anthropocene 2000 in the Global Change newsletter. They contend that human activity, especially emission of greenhouse gas, has altered the planet in the last few hundred years, and we have entered in a new geological age, the Anthropocene. Another important piece of work presented by Crutzen in 2002 was Geology of Mankind in Nature. Since then, geologists, social scientists, historians, archaeologists, ecologists, philosophers, and climate scientists are using the concept in diversified way. The nucleus of the concept Anthropocene is thus that human activity dominates the climate and the environment and change Earth's natural cycles and systems to such an extent that it is irreversible. The concept Anthropocene includes soil erosion, sediment transportations due to urbanization and agricultural activity, environmental change such as global warming, increase in sea level, ocean acidification, changes in biosphere, increasing number of domestic animals, proliferation and dispersion of new minerals, rocks such as fly ash, plastic, and number of technofossils. Anthropocene debate. The term Anthropocene indicate beginning of new geological era marked by human dominance. There are evidences which suggest that human activities have altered Earth system processes such as atmosphere, hydrosphere, hydrological, geological process that are or reversing them, it's impossible. Therefore, to protect Earth's human needs to be altered and it has to be steered away from climatic point in the ecosystem. This geological postulate led to scientific and interdisciplinary Anthropocene debates. Now the debate also continues over where to mark the beginning of Anthropocene epoch. According to Malhi, the concept originated in natural science but now has surpassed across the discipline including social sciences, humanities, broader cultural, political discourse on how to live and respond to the human domination on the planet. Now, the key points in Anthropocene debate is that the debate raises question about knowledge production, Anthropocene and inclusivity. The Anthropocene debate has led to tension not only between natural and earth science but also in social science and humanities. There is debate over who produces Anthropocene knowledge, how the knowledge is produced or are produced, and which method is used to produce Anthropocene knowledge, and what measures are used to authorize and circulate the knowledge created. On the positive side, the Anthropocene debate has brought a limitation and multiplicity of viewpoints, many viewpoints of various scholars and disciplines. Based on these differences and attempts can be made of developing transdisciplinary approach to sustainable Anthropocene science, which would be more inclusive, would help to build more sustainable relationship with planet Earth. Now, we summarize the entire topic. We spoke about sustainable development, we spoke about climate change which affects natural resources, living condition of humankind, their sustenance, along with social and economic development, human activities which influences ecosystem, which leads to climate change, and we need to protect the environment from this climatic change through the Millennium Development Goal, Sustainable Development Goal. Therefore, there is a need of policies that address both issues, climate change and sustainable development. And we spoke about Anthropocene, the debates of Anthropocene. We speak and we have seen in the earlier slides, and we have spoken about Anthropocene. We see that a number of studies have happened since mid 20th century, and it has documented the issue of environmental crisis due to human induced activities, which is also called and which is being termed as Anthropocene. Now, this has led to a debate in natural and social sciences as scholars from different disciplines present parallel narratives of causes of ecological crisis, challenges due to climate change, and threat to our planet Earth. Their views are differing and perplexing, but we need to know that there are few common consensus and agreement among the natural scientists, the social scientists, the activists, the policy makers, politicians, and others. But these consensus are not on all the aspects of environmental or climatic change or on Anthropocene. So there needs to be a collective efforts made by or made by all of them to understand Anthropocene. Now, nevertheless, it should encourage communication across discipline, transdiscipline, and recognize the fact that no one discipline is in position to comprehend the Anthropocene era. Now, on this note, I end the video, and at the end of the video I always like to say and pass on a message that we need to control our carbon contribution to environment. We need to protect our planet Earth. Other than the government, the policies, even it is our duty to take care of our Mother Earth. Thank you, students. See you in the next video soon.